I never thought dyslexia would be the reason I fell in love, but here we are. My name is Adrian, and this is the story of how my bunkmate reading my letters out loud became the most intimate thing I've ever experienced. It started 3 months into my deployment. I'm a Marine, stationed overseas, and mail call was always the highlight of everyone's week. Guys would crowd around whenever the supply truck came in, hoping to hear their names called. For most of them, it meant connection to home, to normalcy, to the people they loved. For me, it meant anxiety. I've had dyslexia my whole life. It's not something I advertise, especially not in the military, where you're supposed to be sharp and capable at all times. I can read, technically, but it takes me 3 times longer than everyone else, and by the time I finish a paragraph, I'm exhausted. Letters were the worst because they were handwritten, full of loops and curves that would swim across the page no matter how hard I concentrated. My mum wrote to me every week, long letters, full of news about my little sister's soccer games and my dad's garden and what the neighbours were up to. I'd get them and feel this weird mix of gratitude and dread. I wanted to know what she said. I wanted that connection to home, but the effort of reading them felt insurmountable after 12-hour shifts in 100-degree heat. So they'd pile up on my footlocker, unopened. White envelopes with my mother's careful handwriting, stacking up like a monument to my inadequacy. That's when Hayes noticed. Hayes was my bunkmate, assigned to the cot 3 feet from mine in our cramped quarters. We'd been living in each other's space for months, but I wouldn't say we were friends exactly. He was quiet, kept to himself mostly, always reading these thick paperback novels during downtime. He had dark hair that was just on the edge of regulation length, and these grey eyes that seemed to notice everything even when he wasn't looking directly at you. One evening, after a particularly brutal day, I was sitting on my cot staring at the latest letter from my mum. I'd opened it, determined this time to actually read it, but the words were doing their usual dance across the page. I must have been making a face because Hayes looked up from his book. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah, fine," I said automatically. He glanced at the letter in my hands, then at the stack on my footlocker. Something shifted in his expression, like he was putting pieces together. "You know, if you ever want someone to read those to you, I don't mind." I felt heat rush to my face. "What?" "The letters," he said, casual as anything. "If your eyes are tired or whatever, I could read them aloud. I don't mind." It was such a simple offer, but it felt massive, like he was offering to witness something vulnerable. "I'm not. My eyes are fine." "Okay," he said, and went back to his book. No judgment, no pushing, just okay. That night, lying in the dark, I kept thinking about it. About the pile of unread letters, about my mum taking the time to write every week and me not even knowing what she was saying. About Hayes's quiet offer, given so casually, like it was nothing. The next evening I picked up a letter before I could lose my nerve. "Hey Hayes, that offer still stand?" He looked up and this small smile crossed his face. "Yeah, of course." I handed him the envelope, my hand shaking slightly. He opened it with careful fingers, unfolded the pages and started reading. His voice was different than I expected, softer, with this gentle rhythm that made my mum's words come alive. He read about my sister scoring the winning goal in her game, about my dad's tomatoes finally ripening, about the new family that moved in next door with their golden retriever puppy. I closed my eyes and just listened. It was like being home, like my mum was right there, talking to me. When he finished, I had to clear my throat before I could speak. "Thank you," I said. "Any time," he replied. It became our routine. Every few days, Hayes would read me a letter. Sometimes we'd be sitting on our cots, sometimes outside during a rare moment of downtime, sometimes in the mess hall after everyone else had cleared out. He never made a big deal of it, never asked why I needed this. He just did it. But something was changing. I started noticing things about Hayes that I hadn't before. The way he'd pause at certain sentences like he was considering their weight. The way his voice would soften when my mum wrote something particularly tender. The way he'd sometimes glance up at me while reading, like he was checking to make sure I was okay. And I noticed other things too. The way his forearms looked when he held the pages. The small scar on his chin. The way he'd run his hand through his hair when he was thinking. Things I had no business noticing about my bunkmate. Then came the letter that changed everything. My mum had written about my ex-girlfriend Emily. We'd broken up right before my deployment and apparently she'd gotten engaged to someone else. My mum was gentle about it, saying she hoped I was doing okay, that she knew it might be hard to hear. Hayes was reading it aloud, and I watched his expression shift as he got to that part. He slowed down, his voice careful, and when he finished the paragraph, he looked up at me. "You want me to keep going?" he asked quietly. "Yeah," I said, even though my chest felt tight. He continued, but something had shifted. He seemed more aware of me, of how I might be feeling. When he finished, he folded the letter and handed it back. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm fine. It was over before I left anyway." He nodded, but he was watching me with those grey eyes, and I had the unsettling feeling he could see more than I wanted him to. For what it's worth, anyone who'd let you go is an idiot. It was such a simple statement, but the way he said it, the way he was looking at me, made my heart do this strange flip in my chest. I laughed it off, made some joke I don't even remember, but that night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying his words, his tone, the expression on his face. That's when I started to realise. This feeling in my chest when Hayes read to me, this awareness of his presence, the way I looked forward to our evening routine more than anything else in my day. It wasn't just gratitude, it wasn't just friendship, I was falling for him. The realisation terrified me. I'm a Marine. We don't ask, don't tell was officially repealed, sure, but that didn't mean everyone was accepting. And even beyond that, Hayes was straight as far as I knew. He'd never mentioned a girlfriend, but he'd never mentioned a boyfriend either. I was probably reading into things, seeing what I wanted to see. I tried to create some distance, started making excuses when he offered to read, said I was too tired, had other things to do. The letters started piling up again. Hayes noticed. Of course he did. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked one evening. "What?" "No." "You've been avoiding me." "I haven't been avoiding you. We literally sleep 3 feet apart." "You know what I mean, Adrian." The way he said my name made my stomach flip. "If I overstepped or made you uncomfortable, I'm sorry." "You didn't. I can read them myself." He looked at me for a long moment and I couldn't meet his eyes. "Okay," he finally said, but he sounded hurt. I felt like garbage. Here was this guy who'd been nothing but kind to me, and I was pushing him away because of my own confused feelings. That night, lying in the dark, I could feel the space between our cots like a physical thing. The silence was suffocating. A week passed. The letters kept coming. I didn't read them. Then my mum sent a package. It arrived during mail call and everyone got excited because packages meant treats, things from home. I opened it to find homemade cookies, a new pair of socks, and a letter. But this letter was different. The envelope was marked important in my mum's handwriting. My hands were shaking as I held it. Something about that word, important, filled me with dread. I tried to read it, I really did, but the words wouldn't cooperate. My heart was pounding, my vision blurring with more than just dyslexia. Hayes was across the room, deliberately giving me space like he'd been doing all week. I looked at him, and before I could overthink it, I said, "Hayes, I need your help." He was at my side in seconds. "What's wrong?" I handed him the letter. "Please." He took it, his fingers brushing mine, and started reading. His face went serious as he absorbed the words. "Adrian, it's your grandfather. He's in the hospital. Heart attack. Your mum says he's stable but asking for you. She's trying to get you emergency leave." The world tilted. My grandfather and I were close. He was the one who taught me to fish, who never made me feel stupid when reading was hard, who told me I could be anything I wanted despite my dyslexia. "When?" I managed to ask. Hayes scanned the letter. 3 days ago. This letter took a while to get here. I stood up abruptly, needing to move, needing to do something. Hayes caught my arm gently. "Hey, breathe. He's stable. Your mum would have found a way to get word to you faster if it was critical." "I should have read her letters," I said, my voice breaking. "She probably mentioned he wasn't feeling well. I would have known. This isn't your fault. I have all these unread letters. What if there's information I need? What if he dies and the last communication from my family is sitting unread on my footlocker because I was too much of a coward to ask for help?" "You're not a coward," Hayes said firmly, "and we'll read them. Right now. All of them. Together." He grabbed the stack of letters and sat on my cot, patting the space next to him. I sat, and he started with the oldest one, working forward. His voice was steady and calm as he read through weeks of my mother's letters. Most were just normal family updates, but there were mentions of my grandfather. Small things. He'd been tired lately, had a doctor's appointment, was cutting back on his woodworking. Signs I would have missed even if I had read them, but still. It mattered that I knew now. When Hayes finished the last letter, we sat in silence. His shoulder was pressed against mine, warm and solid. Without thinking, I leaned into him, just slightly, and he didn't pull away. "Thank you," I whispered, "for all of it. For reading to me. For being patient. For not making me feel broken." "You're not broken," he said quietly. "You're one of the strongest people I know." I turned to look at him, and he was already looking at me. We were so close I could see the different shades of grey in his eyes. "Hayes, I'm sorry I pulled away. It wasn't about you. It was about me being scared." Scared of what? This was it. The moment. I could deflect, make something up, protect myself. Or I could be honest. I thought about my grandfather in a hospital bed, about how life was fragile and short, about how I didn't want to waste time hiding. "Scared of how I feel about you," I said. His breath caught. "How do you feel about me?" "Like these reading sessions are the best part of my day. Like I notice everything about you. Like maybe I'm falling for you and that terrifies me because you're my bunkmate and probably straight and this could ruin everything." For a moment he just stared at me. Then, slowly, he smiled. "You think I volunteer to read letters to every guy in my unit?" "What?" "Adrian, I've been trying to figure out how to tell you for weeks. I'm not straight, and I don't read to you just to be nice. I do it because it's the only time I have an excuse to be close to you, to hear you talk about your family, to see your face when you hear good news." I couldn't breathe. "Seriously?" "Seriously." He reached up and touched my face, his thumb brushing my cheek. "I've been gone for you since the first time you smiled at me." "I don't remember the first time I smiled at you." "I do. It was week 2. Someone made a joke about the food, and you laughed, really laughed, and I thought it was the best sound I'd ever heard." Then he was kissing me, soft and tentative, like he was afraid I might pull away. Instead, I kissed him back, my hand coming up to his neck, pulling him closer. He made this small sound of surprise and pleasure, and I felt it all the way through my body. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. "We should probably talk about this," I said. "Probably," he agreed, but he was smiling, his forehead resting against mine. "I'm still terrified," I admitted. "Me too. But maybe we can be terrified together." Over the next few days, I got my emergency leave approved. I'd be going home for 2 weeks to see my grandfather. Hayes helped me pack, and the night before I left, we lay in our cots, hands stretched across the space between them, fingers intertwined. "I'll write to you," he said, "while you're gone." "I can't read them," I reminded him. "I know, but you can save them, and when you get back, I'll read them to you." The thought made me smile. "What are you going to write about?" "How much I miss you. How the bunk room feels empty without you. How I can't wait for you to come back." He paused. "Maybe some good parts too." "Good parts?" Even in the darkness, I could hear the smile in his voice. "Yeah, things I'm too chicken to say to your face. I figure if I'm reading them aloud to you, I'll have to be brave." "What kind of things? Come back and find out." I did go home. My grandfather was recovering well, and seeing him, hearing his voice, made everything feel more real. I told him about Hayes. Not everything, not yet, but enough. That there was someone who mattered to me. Someone I was afraid of losing. He held my hand with his weathered one and said, "Adrian, life's too short to not tell people you love them. Trust me on this." When I got back to base, there were 3 letters waiting for me. Hayes's handwriting on the envelopes. That first night back, we sat on my cot and he read them to me. They were beautiful, full of longing and hope and nervousness. And yes, good parts. Parts about how he imagined kissing me again, holding me, being with me. His voice changed for those parts, got lower and softer, and I watched his cheeks flush as he read his own words. When he finished, I took the letters from his hands and set them aside. "I love you," I said. "I know it's fast and probably crazy, but I do." His smile was radiant. "I love you too. We've been together 8 months now. We're careful on base, professional, but everyone who pays attention knows. Some guys are cool with it, some aren't, but we've found our people, the ones who matter." Hayes still reads to me. Not just letters anymore, but books, articles, anything I want to hear. It's become our thing, this intimacy of words and voice. Sometimes he reads fiction, changing his voice for different characters, making me laugh. Sometimes he reads news or essays, pausing to discuss and debate. And sometimes late at night when the bunk room is quiet, he reads me love letters. Sometimes they're from my mum, full of acceptance and joy that I've found someone who makes me happy. Sometimes they're from his parents, who've welcomed me into their family with open arms. And sometimes they're letters we write to each other, even though we sleep 3 feet apart. Little notes left on pillows or tucked into pockets. I write them by hand, my dyslexia be damned, because I want him to have my words. And he reads them aloud to me, his voice full of tenderness, and I hear my own feelings reflected back through his interpretation. That's the thing about love, I've learned. It's not just about the big moments or grand gestures. It's about someone seeing your struggle and offering help without judgment. It's about small kindnesses that become routines, that become intimacy. It's about a voice reading words in the darkness, making you feel less alone. I never thought dyslexia would lead me to love, but here we are. Hayes volunteered to read my letters aloud, changed his voice for the good parts, and somewhere along the way he became my good part. The best part. The part I want to keep forever. And every time he reads to me, I fall a little more in love with the sound of his voice saying my name.